Non-economic arguments for support the arts. There are also a number of non-economic arguments used to justify subsidies to the arts which have influenced the thinking of the Arts Council, as expressed in its report A Creativity Future, and mentioned in the introduction of above page 13. Can the arts survive in the private sector? The arts cannot survive in the private sector and have never done so. They were in the past supported by institutional patrons or rulers. These patrons have now to be replaced by governments. This argument is not justified by the historical evidence for this country, where institutions, princes and governments have played a very different role from that of their continental equivalents, as explained in the introduction above page 9. The theatre flourished in Britain from the end of the 16th century because it attracted a large paying audience, especially in London. The need to satisfy this audience is the reason why drama in England, different from that performed in the court theatres on the continent, and may indeed be said to account for its vigors. The public concerns seems to have been a British invention in the mid-17th century, presumably because the audience was available. With theatre music as well, it created a market for music in London which attracted foreign musicians such as Handel, Mozart and Haydn in the 18th century, and many more since. Institutions have had little influence on the visual arts in Britain. Ever since the Reformation, the Church of England have never been a patron of the arts. The Church has so important patron of the arts before the Reformation, partly because in the wished to decorate its churches, but also because few individuals could afford such a luxury before the 16th century. Average income in 2500 were about at 20 for the present levels, but they began to grow in the 16th century with the expansion of a trade, and growth continued thereafter. Demand for paintings and sculptures among individuals did not grow fast, however, until the Restoration in 1660. A market in the arts developed rapidly in the late 17th century. To meet this demand, the role of the patron had become unimportant by the middle of the 18th century, with artists painting through commissions or selling through dealers. In 19th century, the markets for paintings continued to grow with incomes, although the demand for arts has more recently been weakened by the growth of photography and the availability of reproduction. The Arts Council asks us to believe that the market-based artistic system, which flourished for centuries and which produces the British cultural heritage we now admire, in periods when incomes were far smaller than they are today, cannot now function, and that the arts therefore cannot now survive without government subsidies. This claim is implausible. Subsidies may change the nature of the arts which get produced. Subsidized works may replace some of the unsubsidized works, and theaters and concert halls. Because subsidies, producers need not worry about the audience and can charge less. And this reduced dependence on the audience may well have made the performing arts more elitist. But artists now have a far larger market for their creation than they did a century or two ago, even if the subsidized sector is excluded. Because of the growth of the new media and many of the creation which the subsidy sectors appears to value, its performances are any guide were written to meet an unsubsidized demand. Unsubsidized demand. The Art Council argument is essentially that something has changed about the role of the arts in society in the last 50 years, which has made reliance on the markets for their supply undesirable. This claim is essentially a statement of political belief that the state should be involved in the supply of the arts, as has been believed in the past by autocrats who wishes to influence the thinking of their subjects, or by those who wishes to influence the education of their fellow citizens. In economic terms, it is a strong variant of the beliefs that the arts represent a merit good. The activities of the unsubsidized sectors of performing arts demonstrate that subsidies are not required to ensure the supply of high-quality productions, such as outcome is not surprising. After all, the arts were provided without subsidy until the 1940s, at times when personal incomes were a fraction of their present level. Making art accessible. Subsidies are needed to make the art accessible to more people by reducing their costs and increasing their availability. Subsidy seems in practice to have more effects on costs than on prices. And pointed out in the introduction above page 14, subsidies to German theaters rose steadily from the 19th century to the 80s, and they also rose in Britain between the 50s and the 80s. In London, ticket prices are subsidized, and unsubsidized theaters do not differ significantly. The most obvious difference between unsubsidized and subsidized theaters that the latter provide a greater choice by operating on the repertory system, so that each production has a shorter run and carry more permanent staff on their payroll. If reducing prices was a prime objective of the subsidy, one might expect the subsidized companies to adopt the first policies and to charge less. Surveys conducted the Arts Council suggest that charges are not a major influence on the audience for the arts. A report prepared in the 90s found the price came 10 out of 15 factors which influence decisions about attending arts events, and that this ranking was the same for people of all income levels. An opinion survey in 1991 found the cost was mentioned spontaneously by only 4% of respondents as a factor preventing them from attending art events. Also, 40% say price had inhibited them from attending at least one event. These results are consistent with the evidence that price elasticity of demand for theaters and especially museums is low. The opinion survey also found that only a third of respondents felt that there should be more arts events in their area, while half through that there were enough. This degree of satisfaction is surprising because there seems to have been a reduction in the number of provincial theaters since the 50s. The Arts Council, as stated in section 2 above, page 19, has concentrated its foundings in London, so that the availability of government support has had less effects of the availability of the arts than it might have done. Fostering innovation in the arts. Subsidy fosters innovation in the arts by freeing artists from the contrasting of popular demand. The Art Council argues that the more original artistic work, the more likely it is to be creator rather than audience-led, so subsidy should be given to the producer rather than to the audience. It also likens the subsidies sector of the arts to the research and development divisions of an industrial company, which produces new products from which the commercial sector can profit. Some artists have argued that they need creative autonomy in which to work, and that they therefore need to ignore public tastes. This view seems difficult to reconcile with history. Innovative musicians in the past, such as Mozart and Beethoven, enjoyed popular acclaims that when they were composing. Innovative British playwritings from Shakespeare to Shaw had a large audience from their plays and achieved financial success. It is inherently plausible that the modern and better educated audience is less able to appreciate novel works than audience in the past. Some distinguished contemporary artists do indeed believe that they should work for or with the audience. Peter Brook, the theater director, has said that he believes the best theater must be developed in partnership with audiences. If artists want to produce work that the public does not wish to see or to hear, it is not clear why the taxpayer should finance the activity. Implausibility of the non-economic arguments. None of these arguments provide a very plausible case for subsidizing the arts. They all seem to be based on the beliefs that the artistic merit and popular appeal are incompatible, although many, if not most, of the artists now considered to have been innovators were popular in their own time. The market supported them. It could support their equivalents today.